Good morning. Today we're at a Vauxhall Insignia 2011 and it's the 1.8 1800 XER model, and I think the engine code is H2O. The customer's complaint with this is a poor performance, i.e. a lethargic performance, and there's stored codes, 4 stored codes. I'll show you them in a second. But the engine, to give the background story of this, he's had these two reoccurring camshaft intake and exhaust codes, and I don't know what the full story of this is, but they've decided to replace the engine. So there's the two camshafts there, the sensors there. So they decided to replace the engine and they've still got these codes. So that's as far as we've got at this point. So whether the engine is the exact replica of the last one it was in, I ain't sure, because I think the engine code is H2O. But I'll show you the scan tool. Full system scan, and in the engine a P0101 mass airflow sensor performance, a P0170 fuel trim system lean, then a P0340 intake camshaft position sensor circuit, and a P0366 exhaust camshaft position sensor performance. So that one's complaining about the circuit and he's complaining about the performance. So there's other faults in it as well, but they're nothing to do with us, park and brake control and that. So just look at these 4 fault codes. I would assume that this one or this one is causing these two there. So that's our causes, and that's our symptoms. But I like to hear it start. It's got a funny crank, which I think it's ignoring the camshaft sensors. So let's hear this. Let's see if I can see that. So it has a elongated, would that be right? So it's got a long crank time. So I think it's ignoring these, I think it's just maybe running off the crank sensor. So let's have a wee look at the PIDs. See here the exhaust camshaft position command, so that's the solenoids, it is not running them. So it's, see, not ran, but it's saying it's okay. So because of that camshaft problem, it's no commanding these solenoids. And then everything else is desired 0, 0, 0. So it's not giving it any advancement. So exhaust camshaft position active counter. So I think they would probably mean something, and we're not getting a count of the intake camshaft. So I think that's the first place we'd maybe go, because I think that number there should count up if we have a pulse coming from that. Let me see, ECT, map, ignition 1. I was actually wondering what the ignition timing is on this. Engine cooling. Well, here we go. Ignition data. Maybe this. So crankshaft position sensor. So that's got a reading. Crankshaft position sync counter 0 counts. Crankshaft position active counter. Got a number. Exhaust has got a number. Intake's got 0 counts, and you can see here a 5-volt reference. They seem to all be good, so I would imagine our supplies all okay. Not retard. So don't know what that figure means, but you'd imagine that's torque management ignition time retard. You think it wouldn't be retarded at this stage. It should be advanced, slightly idle, but about 8 degrees or something like that. Let's see. Ignition timing. Oh, there you go. So that would be about right there. About 7 degrees. And then you can see, oh, it's all over the place, the timing. So there's definitely almost like a slack timing belt, I would say, that figure there. I'll highlight that for you. There's a timing figure for you. Right, I think we'll have to go after that. Let's see if there's just any signals coming out these camshaft position sensors. Well, I've purchased a new tool. It's called Diag. So I've got a box for it anyway. It was an Amazon special, 130 quid. So it's a multimeter cum scope, you name it, it does it. But the thing I really wanted it for was you can give a 5-volt supply, so it acts as a sensor simulator. Anyway, so just a rudimentary check on these sensors. So we're in at the exhaust camshaft position sensor, and you can see we're back probed into, what colour is that, Roddy?
Black grey.
Black with grey we think, so that's a yellow wire and that's a kind of purple wire. So you can see that we have an output on the exhaust. So we've done exactly the same thing on the intake, and we have no output. We have a 5-volt supply, but we have no output. We have nothing like that. So it's either the sensor, or I think it's maybe even something mechanical. But I'll show you the output. Here's where we've got to. So on the exhaust side, what we're saying is the yellow one is our 5-volt supply. We reckon our blue, well we think that's blue, black and grey, whatever it is, that's our signal, that's our 0 to 5 volts. And this kind of purplish one, I think it's purple, that's our ground. Is that right, Roddy?
That's right.
So when we go to this one here on the exhaust, we'll put the light on here. On the yellow one, we're getting 0 volts. On the grey, is it grey we've got? Blue grey, we've got 5 volts. We don't know if that's supply or signal, but it's just a straight 5 volts. And on the green one, we have 5 volts. So we're wondering, is the yellow the ground? And if that's the case, we have no output from that camshaft. Either the sensor's kaput, or the lobes are missing off the camshaft, or we'd imagine that because it's yellow there and that yellow one there, you think that'd be the 5-volt supply. Whether somebody's mucked the wiring up. But we're going to look at a wiring diagram and try and figure that one out. We looked at a wiring diagram, and on the intake, the yellow there is the signal wire. The blue, we think is it blue or grey blue or blue grey, is the power supply, and the green, it's black green, green black, is the ground. So I think you can remember, I think I showed this in the video, we have 5 volts in that wire. So we are missing a ground. So we're just going to give that a ground. We'll use our little test light here so we can limit it, and let's see if the sensor starts working. And if it does, we have lost the ground somewhere between there and the computer. So let's try that first. We've ran a ground straight into that green wire. You can follow the black wire all the way back to the battery. We tried it first of all with our test lighting series, but we still could not get a response from the, let's see, we're going into that and we're still getting 0 response. Nothing coming out of that sensor at all. But the funny thing is, if you looked at the scan tool, you see we're getting a count on that thing. I don't know what's going on there. You can see our ignition time is still over the place, so let's switch these sensors. You never know. Switch the sensors over, but the guy said they'd already switched them. But we're not sure if he just done one or just seen one. But we did notice this one. Look at that. There's oil there. Sounds like Texas. So I think we'll just go to order another one for Dingbro. There we go. First rule of thumb, always check they're magnetic. So there you go. That one is. So that's a bad one, Roddy. Eh? Right. There we go. And here's a good one. Well, this has got an output. You can see that works fine and dandy as well. So we've just ordered another one from our local supplier. So we'll wait for that to come in. But there certainly was a. Is that the number there? Oh, that's there. The guy, our local supplier, says they're different part numbers. So maybe we'll try. Is there oil in here already? Oh, it's soaking. Oh, it's hard to see that, eh? But believe me, there is oil in there. Ah, so can he. How many pins is there? 3?
3 pins.
Was that, is that pin at the top?
That's bent.
Oh, bent pin.
Bent pin.
Oh, there we go. Right, let's try and unbend the pin. Let's get the good stuff. All brake clean. Oh, look at that. Now we've cleaned out the sensor. Straightened the pin. Right. Let's try it again. Well, we're waiting for this camshaft sensor to arrive. Interesting. We've disconnected both the camshaft sensors and the car still starts and runs. Never knew that. I thought we'd need one or the other, but Vauxhalls do not. So we'll put a new sensor in it. There's a part number, made in China. Where else? And you can see now that we have an output signal from it. But still, we have a new code now, a P0341 intake camshaft position centre performance, and the 366 still there, exhaust camshaft position centre performance. So it's working now. I'm worried about this replacement engine. I'll tell you why. So our code changed from 340 to 341 with the new sensor installed. So it's a performance issue on both these sensors now. So what I thought, just outside the box here, because we still have a long crank. It's like, I'll let you hear it. 1, 2, 3. So it's still a long crank. That should be sharper than that. So what we're going to do is we'll clear the DCCs. And it comes right back. So what we could try now, we'll go into special functions, learn functions. Let's try crankshaft position variation learn, because if this is a new engine it probably needs this done, so let's try that. Shifting, set the parking brake. Well, okay, we've done that. Engine coolant out, so it's too cold. Passed. So our coolant temp is out of range. So we need to get a wee bit warm first. So we'll come back to you. That's me pressing the brake pedal. Just waiting for the car to heat up before we can do this this reset. But you can see both the exhaust camshaft and the intake, they're doing their counts. And as you can see, the numbers are quite close to each other. So to me, the computer is receiving a count. Has to be. From both of them now. So once it gets up to temperature, we'll try this relearn procedure. Right, so here we go. It's passed all the tests, so we'll do this here. Press and hold the brake. Accelerate the engine with the wide open throttle and release the pedal when the fuel cut off occurs. Oh. Right, so here we go, we'll put it right on. So horrible when you do that. Accelerate the engine with the wide open throttle and release the pedal when fuel cut off occurs. Oh, I'll let you see this.
Okay.
Let's see, okay, let's see. Malfunction present or enable conditions are not met. We agree with that. Trouble codes. So these codes will be inhibiting us for doing that, I would imagine. So let's clear DTCs. Yeah. Still rubbish. So we can't do that procedure with these codes present, I would imagine. That's it adjusting. Intake camshaft 00. So that performed a test there. and it never done anything, but you can see it's struggling. So it's actually increase it. Let's increase it then. No, let's go any further. So we've connected to the camshaft on the exhaust, the camshaft on the inlet, and the wire we have used here is the grey black, or black grey, and also the green brown here, and we're connected into the camshaft, the crankshaft here, which is a green wire up there. So the wiring diagram I have for that is nothing like what's on this car. So we've got our scope set up, 3 channels. The yellow channel is the crank, and the blue and the green are the camshafts respectively. So, respectively, whatever the word is, I can't get my words out. So, right, already fire up, see what she looks like, my man. So we'll let her run. That'll do, Roddy. So there's our trace there. So we see that between that point there and that point there and that point there is 720 degrees of the crankshaft revolution and 1 revolution of the camshafts. So I need a good known waveform for this, but any ones I've seen look nothing like that. Usually they usually have 2 big bits, then 2 little bits. But you can see we've just got like evenly spaced chunks or segments in that camshaft. So that does not look right, but if anybody knows what the correct one is for this engine, you can chime back to me. But I think that's why your codes are coming back. I have progress. So I spoke to my network of friends, and they sent me an own good, or told me what an own good looks like. So there's our one. So we've just got the big, what do you call it?
Waveform, yeah.
Big waveform or whatever, inserts or whatever. And this is what it should look like. I got this off the net, off a Pico library somebody had shared, and looks totally different. So we're on a hiding to absolute nothing with this, because you've got that, and then you got that. So you could end up changing the cylinder head or the camshafts and that and still be in a problem. So to resolve this issue, you need an engine, and you need the correct engine. So I think we'll leave it at that. We've done more than enough. Anyway, cheers.